Perhaps we need some outside universal threat to make us recognize this common bound. I occasionally think how quickly our differences worldwide would vanish if we were facing an alien threat from outside this world.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We are very glad to have you here as we got Varla Ventura on the big show tonight. Man, her hair grown. Yeah, her hair is getting long and beautiful and stunning. Dirty Filth is here with another cartoon as well. But the best part about tonight, we have each and every one of you, including Race Fan in the gold medal position, Tim Mothman in his goatee with a silver, Simon the Likeable taking home the bronze medal tonight. Hi, Chris 716, Michael Morris, Eternity Eternal. Good to have you all here. Brown Dwarf and Little Timmy James. Nice to see you both. Mel WD40 is here, currently lubing us up for tonight's show, because you always want to go into a show nice and smooth. You don't want that rigidness. It's uncomfortable. You know, it just doesn't feel good. And sometimes it doesn't feel right when you do a show with rigidness. So thank you, Mel, for lubing us up. Lee the Bee, Robert Lamoth, Dragonfly. Nice to have you all here. Cosmic Joe and Lisa Smith is here. Lisa Smith will be signing autographs after the show. Line up to the left of the studio, if you don't mind, to the left of the studio. Dutch Hank and Deidre, the hippie, with Birkenstocks on, eating quinoa. There she is. T-Bone, my man, how you doing, my friend? The gorgeous and talented Kira has returned. As we continue on with our roll call tonight, who's next? Oh, there he is. From Luleå, Sweden, weighing in at 242 pounds, starting on defense tonight, Lars Janssen, wearing number 14. Becky Belling, wow, has this been a while? Where have you been hiding? The gorgeous Becky Belling right there. Corey, what's happening, my man? As we continue on with our roll call, Rich Buddy is here. Rich Buddy will be signing autographs after the show as well. Line up to the right of the studio, if you don't mind, to the right of the studio. Major Lee and his grifting have returned. Let's continue on. Fapster, what's happening? Operation Shutdown. And W. David Page, nice to have you both here. Gory Tiger, thank you for coming on in. Hi there, Jazz Ramblings. Good to have you here as well. And who's next on our list? Oh, it's Algaray over on Twitch. He did 11,000 sit-ups in 33.33 minutes. 33.33 minutes, 11,000 sit-ups, because he wanted to be jacked up for Varla tonight. Let's continue on. Asteroid, how you doing? Marty Burback, good to see you. Jenny White Bear has returned. Look at that. Jenny White Bear is here. We love our Jenny White Bear. Yes, we do. Dewey Cheatham and Howe, Superknower, Jay True Seeker. Nice to see you all. As we continue on with roll call, there's Cosmic Joe doing the good deed and kicking off this super chat tonight. It's a wonderful way to support what we do on this show on a nightly basis. So thank you, Joe. Very much appreciate your love, my man. Continuing on, Nina Williams, hello. And who's next? Kurt M is here. I usually say it twice, so Kurt M. Purple-haired Pixie Lara, nice to have you here. and Paul Demon, Mike Rivers. Good to see you guys. Let's get the radio side going. Hello and welcome to the radio and podcast side of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Varla Ventura is here for our cryptid world, and Varla is raring to go. Raring to go. Yeah, as we continue on with our roll call. Once again, you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store. We do not have ugly swag, people. No ugly swag. None whatsoever. You can wear our stuff out in public and actually be proud to be wearing it. We're going to be adding more again soon because I have an idea that I have to get going on there. Roll call continues. We're caught up, actually. So now we just got to sit here and wait for Varla's beautiful teeth to arrive. You wouldn't believe it. She's actually flossing right now. She's flossing. Who flosses during the show? I do. Not going to lie. I do. All right. That time of the night. Get those horns up. Even you. Let's rock. From the mountains of central British Columbia to you listening around the world, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott, sitting in the captain's chair of SOR headquarters. We welcome you to tonight's show on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. You can follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Tonight's show is brought to you by Chive Charities. Help make the world 10% happier by visiting Chive Charities today. You can find them on our website. We got a power show of awesomeness tonight. Our cryptid world. Varla Ventura is here to talk about all the monsters that we seem to forget about and all the paranormal experiences that happen with them. Then in hour number 3, it's a busy one. Robin Haynes will be here with the Cryptid Report. Swamp Dweller is back. It's the Dave 101 and the weird news of the week. What a show we're going to have tonight, because I love it when Varla Ventura comes on here. Why? Because she's so darn fun. She's amazing. She's talented. She writes with her fingers typing on a keyboard. And she's one of the top authors of the cryptid world that her publisher is always saying to her, hey, we need some new books here. You know, we can't live on just mermaids and woo animals all over the place. And Varla's like, I got this. Not a problem. I'll suplex the cryptids right into the next universe, because that's what she does. She's a hockey mom, which makes her more strong and more tough than most others out there. Most hockey moms are. We'll say that. Except for that lady at my son's hockey team who keeps yelling, pressure, pressure. And she doesn't even know what pressure means. VarlaVentura.net is her website. Let's bring her on right now. Hi, Varla.
Hi. Hello. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, darling.
Hello, Varla.
Yeah, hockey moms, hockey dads. I saw a really funny video where it was like, you know, like I think it wasn't a pro. He was in the minors, and he made this video saying, thank you so much, parents out there, for reminding me to shoot, because when I'm coming up on the net, I just forget what I should do. What do I do with the puck? Oh, thanks. I can hear all the parents shouting, shoot it. I loved it. It was great.
I'm the type of guy who could be on a one-on-one. My hands were so filled with stone then I would just dump it into the corner.
Well,
Yeah.
you gotta do what you gotta do. Everybody has their role, right?
You know what you're gonna hate what I've never told you this. For a while there, when I played hockey, I was the jerk who loved to run the goaltender.
Yeah.
Just to stir it
Doesn't
up,
surprise me.
maybe cause a little anxiety between people. Oh, I love laying out a good goaltender. It was awesome. It was awesome. I'm so dirty.
So
Hockey
I
player.
have to tell you this. There was a game. I think it's 2 weekends ago, and I noticed that my son, someone had gotten in the crease, and he kind of held the kid down, and like pushed down on his helmet. And I asked him about it later, and he said, I just needed a little help getting up.
I love it. I love it. Have you noticed any weird, strange things with your son? Because all goaltenders are weird.
I mean, he's my son, so what do you expect? We are not going to just be a family of forwards, are we?
Well, I understand that. I mean, you're a high quality weirdo yourself.
Yes, it's
But I mean,
cultivated.
I'm serious when I say that, because if you follow hockey, and I know not everybody does, and shame on you for not doing it.
Yeah.
You know, hockey goaltenders are a different breed. It doesn't matter whether they're they're from the United States, Finland, Sweden, Russia, or wherever. I could tell you this: hockey goaltenders are all different. I've never met a normal one. They're either really whiny, they're really crazy, they think they're all funny. It's the weirdest thing, and I don't get it. Never have got it. But hey, to each their own. We need them. Love the goalies out
Gotta
there,
have one.
but you're
Well,
still.
I think,
If there are goaltenders listening, you know what I'm talking about. You're a weirdo, okay? You're a weirdo, and you know it, and you fully grasp it, and admit it that you have not one screw loose, but about 6 or 7.
see, I think the goalie is the most punk rock of the positions. A little bit of a loner,
Yep.
doesn't really give a crap what other people think about him, because you can't really be that kind of person that gets easily rattled if you're going to be an effective goaltender. You have to have the like zen attitude. And you're just kind of like, yeah, definitely doing your own thing, and okay with doing your own thing. So, yeah, respectable weirdos.
I hear you. I hear you. You know what else is weird? Is a lot of the monsters that you cover. You've been doing this for a long time. You love talking about monsters, legends, and the weirder the better. The stranger the better, and more importantly, the more obscure the better. A lot of people love cryptids out there, Varla, but you're somebody who looks for the ones that are more unique. Why is that?
Well, I mean, I like all the cryptids, of course. I like all the mainstream ones. I mean, I love that we can even say that there are mainstream cryptids, okay? Because that's like, 20 years ago, you didn't really have that. So that's kind of fun to be able to say that. So the mainstream cryptids, but I think I really like to follow follow the rabbit down the rabbit hole and see where it takes me. And so usually something like Bigfoot or Mothman, it's like a gateway drug into this whole other kind of realm. And for me, especially, a lot of what I mean, cryptids, otherworldly creatures. I look at folklore from around the world and see a lot of parallels and differences between different creatures. And I just find that, I mean, it's like infinitely fascinating. But there's nothing like learning about an entirely new creature that you've never heard of that sounds very much like, hobgoblin or some other kind of creature. But I just, I mean, dare I say, I have an eye for the sort of for the unusual, but also I at this point recognize that I'm pretty good at reading between the lines, which is something you really have to be able to do, especially when you're reading volumes of old forgotten lore and you're kind of interpreting and remembering the lens at which these authors or these record keepers viewed the world. And when you keep that context in mind, you can kind of start seeing different you can kind of see things differently, so you can really read between the lines. And then you'll quickly discover that a lot of the stuff, source material from around the same time, especially in terms of like sort of early cryptids or fairy creatures, you see a lot of overlap with authors and stories where they'll reference each other, and that will kind of lead you to learn about something else. So I just, yeah, it's an Alice in Wonderland syndrome for sure. Just like forever following the white rabbit to see to see what's ahead.
You know what I like about the cryptid world? I really, really like the one-offs.
Mm.
Okay, whether it's Robot Grandma or the
Oh, I don't know Robot Grandma. What's Robot
yeah,
Grandma?
Robot Grandma is real. You got to read up on that story.
Okay.
Let me see if I can find it here and I'll read it to you.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't heard of Robot Grandma.
You could even Google it and it comes up, Robot Grandma. So let me see if I can find it. No. Robot Grandma. It's to give you the Coles Notes version. There's this boy apparently camping with his grandmother, but his grandmother seems to have changed into a robot, and he's technically missing. Okay, and this robot grandma keeps wanting him to go to the bathroom on this paper, and he wouldn't go. It's Steve Stockton from Missing Persons Mysteries.
Love Steve Stockton. Yeah.
Talks about it.
Okay.
And
Yeah, never heard of that.
It's a really weird story, but you look at the Frogmen of Ohio, Beaver Man, because apparently there's a beaver humanoid up in the northern part of Canada. You have, of course, it has to be Canadian.
Yeah.
Beaver Man, but you
Great
look
White
at
North.
all of these one-offs that seem to happen, and then the creatures are never seen again. It's amazing to me because I want to believe those stories, but it's hard to when they're a one and done. It's not like an 80s one-hit wonder here, where they're long forgotten, but they're Come On Eileen still plays on the radio. Yes, Dexy's Midnight, by the way.
Well, I think that there's a couple things to consider there. I think that with some of the, like, Beaverman, that's like, for every once common animal, there's a shapeshifter associated with that animal. And so, but I think if you think about it, 300 years ago, 200 years ago, it's not as if these supernatural creatures were seen regularly even then, right? It was sort of an unusual encounter that usually had a great deal of significance. So if you think about it that way, then you kind of add to the fact that, and I think a lot of people, especially in terms of like the Bigfoot community, have talked about this a lot, about just, kind of going into hiding because so much of the natural world where they live has been destroyed, or being leery of humans. That's a common reason. And so you're talking about something that would have been an unusual encounter anyway, and now you have a lot of interference. So I don't I agree. Like, you don't know, you'll never know for sure. That's the other appeal, right? We'll never know for sure. And it keeps us like wondering and guessing and exploring and talking about it. But if you think about it that way, it's not like people were just walking around 200 years ago, just like, yo, Beaver Man, how's it going? Hey, Bigfoot, right? They had a symbiotic relationship that perhaps was more full of reverence and respect, but it wasn't an ordinary encounter. In fact, it was an encounter that was generally avoided. You can look at like the way that fairies were talked about in Ireland 200 years ago. It was like, yeah, they're there, but you don't really want to encounter them. You just be respectful. You know the places where you're not supposed to, hang out too much or fall asleep. And so it wasn't like it was an everyday thing. And that's part of what made it unusual and significant when it did happen. So just like whatever kind of, if you think about it in a sort of a logical way, the fact that only one person has seen that, no, that has talked about it, right? And has put it out there, because of course, every time you put things like that out there, you are met with a certain amount of ridicule. We all know that. That's why
Well,
we
of
come to
course.
places like this where we can kind of talk freely and you can't really get too woo. And people, I get a lot of guff for mermaids. It's like, oh, okay, we can talk about Bigfoot, we can't talk about mermaids. All right. So I wouldn't necessarily dismiss something that was just a one-off. I guess that would be my, my reasoning there. Just to kind of, because once upon a time that was, there was a first person to kind of have that encounter. So I don't know. It's really interesting to think about that. But also, Dave, I think you're similar in this way. Like, I've heard a lot of stories over the years. I've researched a lot. I've met a lot of people. I've written their stories. I've, just really kind of, at a certain point, you sort of get an instinct for whether or not the story is authentic. You'll never know, right? Like, you can't really prove like, oh, that person didn't see a ghost or that person did. And proof is elusive. But you do kind of get an idea of whether or not someone is really like authentic, or they're just saying it just to say it. Like anyone, there's always that group mentality of telling a story just to fit in.
Well, and that's actually what I was going to follow up with next. So I'm glad you actually brought that up, because when you've been in the game a long time, you know who's trying to pull the wool over your eyes and who isn't. Sure, some fall through the cracks, but I mean, I think we've all kind of made those mistakes with, taking false information.
Mm. Yes, absolutely. I have a story in one of my books that was later proved. Well, it was proved to be mostly false. Wasn't entirely false, but it was about a device that it had to do with being buried alive, and the historic principle of it was true. But the name of this actual device was never called this thing, and I just had a bad source for that. Doesn't really change the idea of the fear of being buried alive and the means that people would the lengths that people would go to. But it was like 10 years later when I found out that device actually didn't exist. So yeah, I mean, there's always that possibility that something could be disproved. Um, but that's not entirely, the point isn't always just to have concrete proof. You and I have talked about this a few times, that like we have this incessant need to, and I just say we collectively, like we've got the lump everyone in here, right? Humankind. But we have this need to have some kind of quantifiable proof. It makes us feel like we're not crazy, or we're less alone. uh, to me, often stories can be proof. If nothing else, it's proof in a belief system. So, but I do think we have this incessant need to like capture everything, right? Like, and you see this going back into, there's these stories in William Butler Yeats' collection of fairy and folk tales of Ireland about like trying to capture certain fairies, like for leprechauns, for example, and like tying them up, and it's just like things where you just think, God, like why are you like trapping this thing, and just all these kind of this need to say like I have proof. But the great thing about whether you want to call them fairies or cryptids, that they're great tricksters, and they love to make you think and also make it impossible for you you can't just conjure them in front of others. That's part of the whole deal with the other world and the fairy world. It messes with you on purpose, which is, I think it's great, right? They're like the ultimate tricksters.
They very much are, but certain countries and certain religions, they absolutely, you bring up leprechauns, they absolutely believe that these creatures are real. They don't need to be proven. They respect them. I mean, you look at Ireland with the leprechauns. They have forests where people are not allowed to go into because they believe the leprechauns live there. In places like Iceland, they actually divert roads because they believe there's fairies that live in those trees, and they will divert the road around them, not wanting to upset the fairies. There's a lot of stories like that. As we got about 3 minutes to go, Varla.
Yeah, very true. And I think, well, in my experience with, of course, Ireland's a big country, and there's a lot of different opinions on it. But there's a certain, I heard the last time I was there, I was talking with this Irish gentleman, and he said the thing is you can ask the average person, especially a younger person, and they will say that they don't believe in fairies. But if you told them that there was a fairy tree in their yard and they shouldn't cut it down, they won't cut it down. So there's a sort of, ingrained understanding or respect of, if nothing else, the cultural aspect of the importance of fairies in Irish history. I mean, that's not to say like people don't go around going like, oh yeah, leprechauns. And also we have a very like skewed version of what a leprechaun actually is. We have a very sort of racist version of what a leprechaun is actually in North America. We have this kind of ridiculous idea of a man dressed in green with a thick accent that's like the Lucky Charms guy. And leprechauns are much more layered and interesting than that. But of course, there's stereotypes that get played into, especially because there was a lot of bias against Irish immigrants in the US and in Canada during the 1800s, which is when that idea of a stereotypical leprechaun kind of came about.
So what is the true story about a leprechaun then? We got about 90 seconds.
Yeah, well, for one thing, they're not always wearing green. They're actually frequently seen in red or blue. They love fabrics. They are the cobblers of the fairy kingdom. So they keep everybody in their little elfin shoes. They prefer to live alone, generally bachelors, far in the woods. And they do have gold, but it's frequently a golden purse and rather than an entire pot of gold. And if you think about it, you can never find the end of a rainbow. So it's a little bit of a metaphor for incessant greed there, right? Or like trickery. The pot of gold at the end of the rainbow is an impossible thing to ever reach. And so it's a little bit of there's a little chiding in that legend as well.
All right. On that note, we are going to leave that be for right now, because the one thing about Varla and I that you need to know, we never script out a show. Wherever it goes, whatever monster the people want to hear about, that's what we talk about that night. And it makes it so much more fun to have Varla on the show when we don't script it. And I know she's pounding back a martini right now, just hanging on out. Where's the vermouth? I need vermouth. That's our Varla Ventura. VarlaVentura.net. You can find her books at any major bookstore or online as well on our website, VarlaVentura.net. This is Spaced Out Radio. We will be right back. Hey, Dirty Filth. Guess what I did today?
You had Taco Bell.
I wish.
That was my guess.
That's all I got.
I got my deer tags today.
Wait,
What does that mean?
bear or beer?
Deer with a
Oh,
D.
deer.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, deer.
Hey, you know what? Bird hunting season in 2 days.
Oh, we got to wait till the 10th here.
Oh, suckers.
Civilized.
Yeah, but you guys have to wait till you're 19 to drink beers too. So,
Yeah.
My boss always goes hunting and he fills his freezer and then he brings the rest to work. And nobody really likes wild game at work, so I usually end up just getting piles of free meat.
Free meat.
Oh, I don't
Wait.
plan on.
Do you
I
guys
don't
have
plan
meat
on
raffles in your neck of the woods? Do you guys have
Any
meat
castles?
raffles? Meat raffles.
Yeah.
Okay,
Oh.
I do you? I'd never heard of them until I moved to Minnesota, and then I saw a sign one day, and I was like, a meat raffle. What on earth is that? Well, it's exactly what it sounds like. It's a raffle for a big old chunk of meat, but I don't know. It's just not something I grew up in California. We don't have meat raffles.
Mhm. Oh, those are legendary in Canada. People fight over a good meat raffle.
I mean, Minnesota's
Turkey
kind of
dinners.
like Canada light. You know what I mean? It's a little bit like baby Canada down here.
I doubt I will harvest a deer because I think they're really cute
Aw.
and I really like them.
They would
But-
harvest you, Dave.
I can tell you this:
Would they? I don't know. I think
I
they're
will be
herbivores.
I will be going for some chickens.
Ooh.
Wait, what? Like wild chickens?
Yes, grouse.
Oh, grouse. Okay.
Yeah, wild chickens.
Wild chicken.
They're out of control, Varla.
Feels like it could be.
I had I
obvious
was driving
song.
my Sasquatch site last Saturday, me and my buddy Tim, and literally came up on the road and I don't mean this to sound mean for people, but grouse are the stupidest animal out. I had to hammer my brakes so I didn't run over them. There was like 5 baby grouse out on the road, and they're all kind of looking at me like do. I think they were mesmerized by Tim's beard because he's got a pretty tight beard, but. And literally then 4 of them run off and there's this one just standing there like, oh, what are you? Right? I don't think he got enough worms, or maybe he ate the bad worm that mom fed him.
He had the rotted worm.
Yeah, he had the rotted worm. But yeah, I wouldn't keep those. They're too small.
Did you know that you're grousing about grouse right now?
Mhm.
What do we got going on here, Phil?
Yeah, it's a
Here's my
goblin.
glasses.
It's a
Nice.
goblin so far.
Ooh, great.
Somebody
Love the
requested a goblin. My
Hey,
moons
Phil.
are always
Excellent.
yes.
If we do a fan party next year, will you do a cartoon just on your chest hair, having a conversation with other chest hair?
Probably do something weird like that.
Yeah, that would be awesome.
I drew Grant a golden chest hair and I mailed it to him with his Christmas card last year.
Just a sloth with Wi-Fi, you'll get your new Swamp Dweller episode at the start of the 3rd hour. Thank you to T-Bone, my man, and Cosmic Joe for the super chats. Where'd Whiskey go?
That was the gargoyle.
Oh, that was Gargoyle. Well, why didn't you tell me? I put Whiskey up there.
I was plugging it in there. I didn't want to start yelling on the middle of the show while you guys were doing important show things. I guess. He just paid me to draw, Dave.
I know.
Pay you the big bucks.
Yeah, I get paid in slices of pizza.
Right? My purple cut.
He mails them to you.
We got 25 seconds.
Ow.
Oopsies.
Oh, my nostrils are killing me.
Too much. Oh, never mind. I won't say it. We're still kind of on the air.
Good morning, Commonwealth Andrew. Here we go, everybody, with the second half hour. All right, here comes the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We greatly appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to everyone that if you've missed portions of this show or others, did you know our archives are always free? Yeah, they are. If you go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio, they're right there and on any major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. VarlaVentura.net is her website as Varla comes in once a month for our cryptid world, and we love it when she is here. Varla, how you doing?
I love being here. I missed you guys last month. Seems like it's been a long time.
Well, we were in the basement doing a bunch of work.
So you say work.
We're glad we did. We're glad we did. Because if we didn't do it, no one would. Right?
Very true.
Nobody would.
We appreciate it.
But we're glad you're here now. That works for us.
Yeah. Ushering out summer and welcoming in autumn. Happy to be here.
We had a Sasquatch tree knock last week. About 40 yards from us.
You mean from your house, or were you like out and about?
From at our spot. We're going back this weekend, as our good friend Swamp Dweller, who will play a new episode of in hour 3, says, never invite a skinwalker over. They never know when to go.
Nice.
That's nice.
Nice.
Thank you, Swampy. We love you, my man.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah.
Cryptids and puns.
You know what? You would like Swamp Dweller. You know why?
Because he's funny.
He's got a seriously awesome heavy metal band. Like not even hard rock, heavy metal.
I do love heavy metal.
Dude knows how to rock.
What's it called?
What is it? Burnt Absolute. What's Swamp Dweller? Put your band in the chat.
Put it in the chat. I'm gonna add it to my music library. Listen to it when I'm working on my next book.
Yeah. I love the Swampy. Yeah. He'd be a good theme song for your audiobooks.
Yeah. I know. Who would read my audiobooks? I don't think any of my books are available on audio yet.
No.
Read it. I feel like I would want someone really fancy. I'm not sure.
Hold on. Let me see.
I would never do it myself because I've tried to do just recordings. Sorry, go ahead.
Burn Absolute is you can find them on Facebook.
Cool.
Burn Absolute.
Burn Absolute. Love it.
Swamp Dweller's band.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Love it. What do you think of Skinwalkers and Wendigos?
Well, I do love a good Wendigo story. I think honestly, I think like many aspects of Native culture, they've been appropriated and misconstrued. So I think that the story that we get has been twisted with the Hollywood lens, of course. However, I do think that they are probably among the most feared for good reason. I mean, I 100% believe in them. I mean, Wendigo, how could a Wendigo not exist when we've seen its presence, we've seen its presence amongst the Donner Party, for example. We've seen it happen, right? We've seen people turn to the point that they can't control themselves, and the Wendigo certainly has this insatiable greed and this sort of cannibalistic quality. Um, which is also a metaphor for like absolute destruction of the natural world. But the Wendigo is certainly I remember the first time I heard about a Wendigo was actually the storytelling festival when I was a child. Boy, was it a scary, scary story. And I never forgot it, but it was the person who told it just had this wonderful line. Basically, the story was these people were camping out in a tent in a place where they probably shouldn't have been. And they were warned not to leave the tent at night. And the one guy kept hearing something scraping on the tent. And the snow started to fall. So it was winter. And they had been warned, under no circumstances should you leave this tent. This is like not safe territory, just like, sleep through it. But this guy started like his feet just started burning like they were on fire. And he had to like go and stand out in the snow. And he kept just saying, the storyteller kept repeating, my fiery feet, my burning feet, my fiery feet, my burning feet. That was like the cadence in the story. And ultimately, the next day they found footsteps in the snow where he had been sort of, it was like a normal distance apart, and then it was a couple feet apart, and then it was 6 feet apart, and then they were gone as if he had been swept up by something in the night. And it was the Wendigo. Pretty creepy.
Do you believe
Wendigo feet?
Do you believe Wendigo skinwalkers are actual, medicine men that have gone rogue?
Probably. I mean, I don't know about Wendigo. I've not really heard that origin of Wendigo. Wendigo do kind of are sort of these like transformed, once were part of the group and now are have kind of like become cannibalistic, but they feel more supernatural. Not that skinwalkers aren't, but yeah, certainly. I mean, there's dark medicine, there's dark forces at foot, and there's a reason that that's at the crux of every kind of horror and Hollywood story, the idea of good versus evil. And there's a reason. And when you really get heavy into magic and you dabble with things, you see things and you feel things and you witness things that aren't always love and light. And you have to be able to handle that. And not everyone can, right? I mean, history has shown that. So yeah, I absolutely see that because I don't know, it's tempting, right? Like it's totally tempting. Oh, you could have like immortality and the ability to shapeshift and basically infiltrate the population to do your bidding. I don't know, it's but it also could be something else, and I think that that's what's so intriguing and terrifying about skinwalkers in particular.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. Skinwalkers and Wendigos. When are they seen? What causes them to be seen?
Well, I don't know a lot about skinwalkers as far as, I mean, I've watched the shows probably everyone's watched and read the stories. I don't know a ton about what causes them to come out. I think it's like any supernatural creature. Some people can see them and some people can't, or some people can witness them. I do think that with any kind of encounter with any supernatural being, they do appear for a reason. I don't think it's arbitrary. I think that, first of all, even if it's terrifying, I do think it's a gift to you to be able to see and understand that there is something outside of this realm and to have some affirmation of that, because the chances are, if you're witnessing a skinwalker, it's not the first unusual experience you've had in your life. And I do think that they also exist to remind us that we spend too much time clinging to some sort of false sense of normalcy and reality. Saying, okay, so there's this thing, and it's actually like a horror trope, a horror writing trope, and there's this thing where it's called the othering. And generally, in like the typical horror story, let's take Lovecraft, for example. The othering is like basically the main character is someone who is quote unquote normal and clinging to sanity. And they are fighting with every fiber of their being to not be sucked into this other realm, to not be considered abnormal in society. So that's sort of like the othering, but you can completely turn that on its head, right? And you could say, well, what if the ultimate, but now here we get into science fiction, what if the ultimate punishment, with the ultimate horror, is not that you'd be sucked into the vortex with Cthulhu, right? It would be that you are sucked into a desk job and you are like part of mind numbing operation where you are just sort of like stamping the papers and passing them on, and you're not allowed to smoke, and you're not allowed to get up from your desk, and you're not allowed to put pictures up. So the idea of something like a skinwalker coming in and sort of becoming part of a kind of like shambling their way into an ordinary situation. You sitting around in a bar, or on a walk in the forest, or in the desert or something. The idea that thing is fearful, which I think it is. I'm not saying I wouldn't be freaked out. I don't know what I would do. But the idea that the worst case scenario is to be not like everyone else, I think if you shift your mindset a little, you might find that, and probably many people listening would agree with this, because we're all probably like, monster fans, right? We love monsters. But the idea that instead of the horror being this thing that is coming to get you, it's actually the inability to see those things that are quote unquote coming to get you. I don't know. It's just part of I've been writing some horror fiction and just kind of like exploring that idea of what is the most terrifying thing that could happen. Is it that something's going to like tap on my window in the night? No, that's not terrifying to me. That's actually like really interesting and has happened to me. So what is terrifying? Would it be that I would, lose the ability to believe, or the ability to see those things, or that you would, lose the second sight? I don't know. It's kind of interesting. And when you think about really like in terms of cryptids and the fears that we have around them, you can ask yourself, what are we really afraid of?
No, I totally get that. I totally get that we are afraid of many of these creatures. We're afraid of the nightmares. I mean, a lot of people talk tough, Varla, when they have not been in that situation. And let's face it, the majority of people who listen to shows like ours, they live in a city or they live in a suburb. They're not trekking into the forest. They're not going 20, 30 miles into the forest to look for Sasquatch or Dogman or even gnomes. They're not paying attention to the signs around their property of things that might be there. You know, we don't pay attention because we got too much other stuff going on. And, you know, like I think Tim addressed it on our UFO report nicely last night. You go to in Vancouver, if you go to Stanley Park, you think you're in a forest. You're not in a forest, you're in a park, you know? And so I think a lot of people don't understand the challenges of seeing something with their own eyes that should not be real. Whether it's a cryptid, whether it's Dracula or vampires or aliens in your bedroom or whatever it may be. What's your thoughts?
Well, I mean, I don't think that cryptids and supernatural creatures are excluded from dwelling in cities. I think you have bigger things to worry about if you're walking down the street in, downtown Vancouver at night, especially if you're a woman alone. You got things a little more concerning than, a sewer monster or something. You're a little more concerned about the humans in that situation. So, but absolutely. I mean, like my background, of course, I have lived in cities, but I was really raised in the middle of a forest. And I think that changed really in the middle of the forest. Like, I know you live in a very rural place. My parents don't have electricity. It doesn't go to their property. Still, no electricity there. They got alternative energy now. But I mean, we were little kerosene lamps when I was a kid. So there's a quietude that happens there. And I do remember when cousins would come up from the city, right? Where my mom was born in San Francisco and her family was all raised in San Francisco. And I've lived there for many years myself. I remember cousins and stuff coming up and being super freaked out at night by all the noises, the owls and the howls and all of the things that I had just grown accustomed. I didn't really think about that. And then, you put someone like my brother who would put him in the middle of a city and he would be tortured by the sound of sirens and things like that, get him to the woods as fast as possible. So, but I do think that there are all kinds of creepy things kind of dwelling. And actually the great thing about cities are often the high concentration of ghosts, because you have a lot of older buildings, a lot of older structures. As much as I'd like to say that the most haunted place I've ever been was a lonesome farmhouse out, in the woods. I mean, that sounds really lovely and romantic, but really it was a 200-year-old Victorian in the middle of the Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco, where I lived for many years and wrote several of my books and had a number of paranormal encounters in that attic apartment. So, but yeah, people talk a good talk. They talk tough, and then you take them to a haunted house attraction and they pee their pants.
I don't know. I don't normally take questions in hour one, but I'm going to on this one because we got 5.5 minutes. And our good friend Swamp Dweller, who we play in the third hour each and every night of this show, and I love Swampy. He says,
Swamp
I
Dweller.
want to know your thoughts on the Raven Mocker. Speaking of things only certain people could see.
I don't even know what that is. I'm looking it up right now. Raven Mocker
is an evil spirit and the most feared of Cherokee witches. According to Cherokee spiritual beliefs, it robs the sick and dying of their heart.
Harsh.
Yes. So this is according to Wikipedia, and I know.
Okay. So yeah, well, I was actually told by a teacher, a college professor, that the good thing about Wikipedia, and I don't use it as a primary source, but the good thing about Wikipedia is that people are constantly researching it and they have to cite their sources and constantly updating it. So it actually is, and it's not for profit. So the information can actually be very authentic. So it's not necessarily a terrible source. Well, I certainly had not heard of the Raven Mocker, and I'm very, very happy that I now have. But I have heard of various indigenous witches and beliefs in witches. Now, I think the word witch is a little problematic here. I don't think that that's probably a direct translation. It would probably be something more like a, person who is like, magic messer, someone who messes with magic or dark magic. When we think of witch, unfortunately, we have sort of a negative connotation with witch, even today, which of course we're fighting against. But hey, but I mean, you can't have light without the dark. You just can't. You can't have an angel unless you believe in, you can't have heaven unless you believe in hell, right? You can't have the natural transformation into the next world unless you have something that swoops in and preys upon the hearts of the dying. I mean, that's a pretty brutal thing, but at the same time, what else are you going to fight against? If there's not some kind of evil force to fight against, like what's your drive at the end of life to protect others' souls, right? That in Christianity, you have, in Catholicism, you have the last rites, right? It's like, doesn't matter what you've done in your whole life, but if you can get those last rites in, you could be saved just before you die. So I suspect that the Raven Mocker kind of exists to help protect the dying and the dead, to help to remind people to protect the dying and the dead from such a horrific, snacker of organs. And I'm excited to delve into that a little more and ask around.
I think you should be.
How do we get? We got a great joke and a new creature to
Swamp
research.
Dweller's
Swamp
on
Dweller,
fire.
you're on fire
He's on
tonight. Yeah.
You know,
Marry me.
well, you never know. I love his channel. I go to bed each and every night listening to his show.
Oh, soothing voice then.
Oh, he's got sometimes his stories, they have kept me up. Not gonna lie.
I love falling asleep too. And I said this actually to him one time, and I didn't mean it as an insult, and it probably came out a little bit as an insult. But I was talking with Jim Harold, and I said, I love falling asleep to your campfire stories. And I didn't mean it that they were so boring that I would fall asleep. But if I have insomnia, which I do most nights, if I put on the campfire stories, I mean, I have to go back and listen to them all again the next day. But as soon as I hear his voice and then I hear him welcoming the first person and they start telling their story, it's like my brain finally shuts off all the thoughts. And I'm just like in that, yeah, I love, but so yeah, I said, I love falling asleep to your podcast. And it's like, I don't mean it's boring. I don't mean it puts me to sleep. I mean, it's just like comforting.
So in regards to the Raven Mocker, Swamp Dweller says only skilled medicine men can see it.
Oh.
And they often will show up as birds of prey, commonly crows or vultures.
Oh, interesting. Okay, I'm gonna do more research on this. So next time when we talk, I'll see if I can do some interviews about that.
For you. Seriously, that's a book for you. Like
I can't believe you're actually saying that, Dave, because I've got to tell you something. You go ahead. You say what you're gonna say.
First Nations legends.
Oh, okay. Okay, so not quite that. But I should have known this was going to happen tonight because I pulled a card. I'll do it on the break. I'll say what the cards are because it's not as interesting as it could be. But I pulled a card and it was a bearded king. So I always love when I pull a beardo guy whenever I'm going to talk to you. Means always means good things. But so I just did a book. It's coming out in April, and it's an exploration of the plants through fairy tales.
Save that. We'll talk more about strange cryptids with Varla Ventura on our Cryptid World right after this, everybody. What a show so far. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott. All right, we are clear. Let's turn things over to the dirty one for some filthy cartoons.
Sounds good.
Hello, Dave. Here's a goblin.
Yes.
Look at his little teeth, Varla.
It's so cute.
Let me zoom in a little bit here. There we are. There he is.
Oh,
hold on a second.
His eyes.
Hold on a second. Here we go. There we go. Look at how handsome he is.
Oh, I love him. He looks sweet.
It's actually kind of... I was kind of inspired by this because I follow someone on X, and I can't remember what the name is. Rossi draws goblins or something. Nonetheless, this person draws these cute little goblins, and it's almost like children style artwork, but it's so simple and beautiful. I love it, and I always kind of chuckled because I thought, I wish my goblin could go hang out with those goblins.
Mm-hmm.
And anyways, I'm rambling away, but
he's a little bit of a cat looking. He has a little bit of a cat vibe, this goblin, so I could see that.
Well, I tried to take as much from the Kentucky goblins as I could.
Oh yeah, the Hopskin Bill or whatever, the Hopskin Bill goblins.
But it works out good.
That's a crazy story, isn't it?
Yeah, and then they had those the Newkirks or whatever. They did that Hellier series. The first one was cool, and then I have the attention span of a goldfish. So after the first series, I was like, I don't got the heart anymore. I feel like if I play video games or I'm watching movies or something, I should be drawing, and I'm cheating myself.
I know. I always feel that too. It's like, the only time I really could do it is like trying to get to sleep.
Yeah. Am I sleeping? I should wake up and like scribble some notes.
I should be doing something.
Is this what my life is going to be? Crap. And then I have cats, so it's not like I ever sleep anyways.
Yeah.
Right, Mr. Gremlin? Yeah. So all the cats have been wrangled, by the way, everybody.
Have they been shut out? I had to put something in front of my door because one of my dogs kept pushing in, and then if the dog gets in, then the cat gets in, and then the cat jumps up exactly where all the candles are burning, and then the candles get knocked over, and then mayhem.
Holy! Where's my scrap piece of paper for notes? For a cartoon of Varla's cats on fire as she's trying to do a show.
Notes.
Varla's cat's on fire while doing a show.
Yeah, and I have a cat that looks just like Real Orange Kitty. And then I have my big black Victor. Dr. Victor Krankenstein. He's always so grumpy.
Dr. Victor.
I love
you know, my favorite vampire film is the Bela Lugosi 1931 Dracula.
Yeah, that's why we're friends, dude. Me too.
Yeah. Probably talked about this, but it must have been the air inside the golden nuggets, so I can't remember.
I don't know.
They put too much oxygen in there, and it makes you forget about things. But and the best scene in it is the mirror scene when he shows him the mirror on the cigarette bucket or container, and he slaps it away. And Bella goes from just a caged wild animal. His facial expression is a caged wild animal ready to strike to calm to just normal, and then he makes the excuse that as he walks out, he threatens Van Helsing. Oh, for one who's only lived one lifetime, you're a very smart man. And and then he like walks to the balcony, and everyone's like, oh, he goes to the balcony, whatever. But they don't realize he flies off the balcony. They don't show him flying.
Yeah,
that's what makes it good, because you have to use your brain a little bit to figure it out, and most people's brains are mush. And I'm rambling here now.
So I've been listening to let me tell you who is in it, an audio book version that's on Audible right now of Dracula, and it's Tim Curry. Let me see who else is in this one. Tim Curry does a voice. It's like great actors doing this. Audible edition in your library. Here it is. Okay, so it's got Alan Cumming. Love Alan. Alan Cumming. Are you just laughing because his last name's Cumming?
Nope.
No, of course not. Totally mature. Emmy Award nominees Alan Cumming and Tim Curry, plus an all-star cast of some other people who I haven't heard of.
Some other people.
But it's so interesting because, of course, like, we know the story. We kind of know, like, what's happening. But there's this, like, the scene when he, like, Jonathan...
Varla, just send me a Morse code message later on your old Morse code machine.
Oh, I will. All
right, guys, take it over.
Have a good night, everyone.
Okay, good night. Love you. Bye.
Again, buddy. Great work. Dirty Filth, once again, is here. Thank you tonight to T-Bone ×2, Simon, and Joe, the Cosmic One. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. Hi, Sandra. And we got 5 seconds. All right, here is hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. We always appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. How y'all doing? All right, Varla Ventura is here. We're going to be talking some more monster talk with her coming up momentarily. But first, I want to remind you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/spaced out radio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Hemathermal. Hemathermal is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets a password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. All right, we have our good friend Varla Ventura, author extraordinary. You can find all of her books at any major bookstore, and her website, varlaventura.net. Talking monsters all night long. Varla, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be here.
It's always good to have you here. You know, the other day I was having a conversation about cartoon characters. You know, it continued last night during the show.
Let's keep it going.
And in my mind, Popeye came up with the sea hag.
Oh, the sea hag. I love her.
Oh, she was ugly with the warts all over her face, her pointy elbows. You know,
her pointy elbows.
Yeah. You know, but are sea hags real?
Yes. Sea hags are real, and they're a real danger. But I think that all of the kind of like most known sort of whatever, if you want to call them humanoid or sort of partially human, partially supernatural creatures such as mermaids, or that might fall into the mermaid category, they are very commonly depicted as either a hideous old woman or a beautiful young woman. And you rarely see like a, a midlife mermaid. That'd be actually that'd be a great story. But yeah, sea hags kind of, some of them, I mean, there's a lot of overlap. Like some of them fall into the same category. They're not necessarily as like half fish as mermaids are, but there are certainly quite a few, speaking of swamp dwellers, aquatic, sort of creepy, often female um, creatures out there whose main objective is to drown you and take your soul. Sea hags are one of them. Jenny Greenteeth, not Jenny Whitebear, Jenny Greenteeth, who is kind of a known swamp dweller in living in bogs and swamps and overgrown ponds and things in England. You have Peg Powler. I think that's a Scottish kind of like a loch dweller, and these are all entities that live within the water. You have the Rusalus in Russia in Slavic folklore, the Ruskalus actually, and they live in rivers, and they reach their long arms out and pull you down into the water and take you away into the rapids and drown you. You've got the Lorelei that dwell in the Seine River that goes right through the middle of Paris, that are known to reach out and grab especially wayward drunks, sort of laughing along the banks of the River Seine. And then, of course, you have mermaids and sea hags and other sort of oceanic hybrid creatures that, they don't always know that you can't breathe underwater. It just kind of happens sometimes that they just want to hang out with you.
Do they really want to hang out with us, or do they want to do nasty things to us?
I mean, kind of the same thing, right? I would say that, like, there are many different sort of human proclivities that mermaids kind of and creatures like this sort of run the gambit. And I feel like mermaids in particular, you do have the more innocent mermaid that genuinely is looking for companionship. And in fact, there are a number of stories of intermarriages between mermaids and men. And in fact, the Mermaid of Zenor, which is a legend from Cornwall, talks about a man who married a woman who was thought to be a witch and a mermaid. So they were not exclusive of each other. And they had children, and the children had an uncanny ability to be able to like hold their breath underwater. So you have a kind of a range, right? You also have those that are just like angry and don't really want you coming into their territory and will seek to destroy you. You have, as many mermaid drowning stories as there are probably just as many mermaid rescue stories where fishermen have been sort of guided by the sound of mermaids' voices to go away from the rocks and toward the dock on a foggy night. So, I think of it a little bit like you could grow two of the exact same plant and they're not going to look identical. And so, or you have, a family of siblings and they're all a little bit different. So I think that can also be true with mermaids and their nature. Whether or not they're really out to get you or if it's sort of just some innocent fun. But there is definitely an underlying menace, whether it's intentional or not. We can't breathe underwater. So if you go in with a mermaid, you're going to drown. That's kind of.
Now, I'm sorry, I'm a little confused here. Are sea hags types of mermaids?
I mean, I think I would put them in that general category of aquatic creatures. So yes, but I wouldn't call them a mermaid because they're frequently not half fish. Sometimes they are like shape-shifting eels, or they're just basically a kind of creepy looking creature that comes out of the water that isn't necessarily, doesn't look like an animal. So
Hmm.
yeah, they kind of, yeah. I mean, I guess I just sort of put a lot of those, in the my book about mermaids. It's not just about your stereotypical mermaid, but it's also about other sort of like counterparts to the mermaid around the world, and that includes um, freshwater mermaids and other entities like I just mentioned.
Okay.
But
Out
the
of all,
Popeye sea hag, like I think that's an extreme example of what a sea hag might look like. I think it would be very covered in kelp and sort of disguised. I don't know about the pointy elbows, but it certainly sounds terrifying. It was like made of driftwood and sort of like clanking along the beach after you as you were like strolling.
wow. Okay. Moving on here,
Dave, I love you. Moving
I
on
mean,
from sea hags.
well, you know what? I look at a lot of these cartoon characters as okay, what would they be like? Like Woody Woodpecker, obviously, would be, or Wally Walrus, or somebody along those lines would be, kind of immature to think that, they could be real, a talking walrus or a talking woodpecker, even Bugs Bunny for that. But that's part of the whole imagination. But in some of the darker cartoons or the older cartoons, there have been dark sides to them. Okay,
Hmm.
Disney is famous for having the darker side of their legends and their stories. I mean, whether it's Alice in Wonderland or whether it's Snow White or whatever it may be.
Yeah, there's some scary scenes in Alice in Wonderland. There's some really scary creatures that she kind of encounters for sure. Yeah, it's interesting because Disney is both responsible for like the continued belief in the villain, while at the same time has glossed over some characters and creatures from folklore and turned them into like lovable pals, so it's interesting because the whole idea of like take the Little Mermaid for example. We have a very specific picture in mind when we think of like the Little Mermaid. Sorry, blowing that candle out, it's driving me crazy. um the idea of this like kind of young girl who's playful and hangs out and sings with like her lobster band and all of this, and that it's like the sea witch who is actually the villain in that situation. But there's a lot of gruesome elements to that story, the least of which is that this young girl has to give everything away in order to just spend one night as a human, and sort of the transformation she has to go through where her tail turns into feet and she's walking like on bloody daggers basically, and her feet are bleeding. Like that part got left out of the can you imagine the Disney version of like the blood just pooling along the beach with every step? But I whenever you see those sort of like characters or caricatures in a cartoon like that, that they're based on legend, right? They're based on something. They're based on stories that people have told for centuries, and they're illustrative stories. So they didn't just. I mean, of course, there's some Disneyfication of things, but they're these like creatures are based on these accounts that people have put to paper. They're not just, well, I mean, sometimes they're pulled out of the imagination, but frequently with a lot of those Disney retellings of fairy and folk tales, there was a great deal of research that went into how, the era in which they were set and how that character might have looked based on when the story was written as well. So you have a lot of, like you mentioned, Snow White, and you have the dwarves and things, and that's set in a very specific time.
Do you look at this as a play on what people are going through? I mean, there's always a message, especially in cartoons or Disney cartoons in general. There's always a message in there, whether we agree with it or not, that's for a different story. But do you believe that a lot of these characters are based on what reality is for a lot of the cryptid world?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think that there's always like the cautionary tales, right? That's always an aspect of any kind of fairy story or fable. There's a don't go wandering too close to that pond because Jenny Greenteeth does live in there, and you will trip on a log, and what you think is just a branch is actually her long bony fingers reaching out to grab you. So, don't walk in the bog, because you can't always tell that the area that you're going to sink down into the swamp. So I definitely think that there's like a cautionary element to some of the stories. And I do think that a lot of stories are told for reasons, right? They're told for entertainment. They're told for teaching things. They're told to share things that we experienced and process things. And I think that when you have a lot of stories that in particular, like if you look at sort of the written record, and by which I mean the like anglicized written record, probably from about the mid 1700s through the earlier part of the 20th century, you have a certain agenda at play. And you can go back further, of course, and find this, where stories are like a moral is sort of pasted over the story, or things are slightly switched up about the story. So the moral might change, or the story can serve to kind of indoctrinate someone into a belief about something. But what I really believe, that's sort of like just is superficially analyzing like fairy tales in general. But what I really believe is, and I really truly do believe this, I really believe that when we have an encounter, whether it scares us or confuses us, or leaves us with questions, I do believe that that's a gift. It can sometimes be a tough gift. It can be hard to recognize it as a gift, but I think that the ability to see something or really experience something that is generally invisible to most people, or invisible to the naked eye most of the time, and to sort of have that that ability to have that experience, I do think it's a gift. And I think it serves each one of us to figure out what that, you could spend your lifetime trying to figure out what exactly that lesson is with that particular thing. But you see it with, you see it with Pookas, for example, a shapeshifter that takes you on a wild midnight ride. It's there to kind of scare you and help you reevaluate your life. It's there for a reason. It's messing with you for a reason, and it's not because all is well. It's usually a warning. So I think that the super part of that supernatural element is that there are gifts that come from these encounters, and we are sometimes too caught up in trying to figure out what they are or if they happened, to stop and recognize that gift that we've been given, and try and figure out what that means for us, and how that can transform us. I'm guilty of that myself.
Varla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. We got some audience questions for you, Varla. Start off with Blue Cruise. Have you ever come across a humanoid, inhumanoid cryptid that has a similar appearance to the man thing comic character?
I don't really know what that means.
The Thing, the comic.
Oh, the Thing. Oh, yeah, like he's from the swamp. The Thing is from the swamp. I would say yes, absolutely. There are some stories kind of in that like Peg Powler, Jenny Green Teeth. There are a few stories from the South also, stories of the like literal like swamp dwellers. It keeps coming up, swamp dwellers, but literal things like that that come out of the boggy grossness and have a fetid scent and actually do come out and I mean, I don't, is that the Thing? Like that might be a different comic character than the Thing. I'm thinking of Swamp Thing. I don't know if that's the same thing.
Probably.
The same thing. I don't. Yeah, definitely. I've definitely read some stories. I haven't heard too many encounters that people have had. I've heard a few on like different shows and podcasts. And I've read a few instances online, but I've never actually had a conversation with someone who was like, "Yeah, I was walking in the swamps in New Orleans and I shouldn't have been, and this is what I encountered." But I've read some accounts like that. I just haven't personally had any, conversations with someone who really experienced that.
All right, let's move on.
But that's kind of along the lines of what you were talking about too, Dave, of just like the cartoon characters, but then like also the comics, right? Like all the main comic book characters are kind of, not all of the main ones, not all the Marvel characters, but a lot of them are based on mythological or supernatural creatures, which is amazing.
Oh, very true. All right, let's move on to T-Bone. All the time I know, Varla, are you hearing anything about Arctic cryptids?
There's definitely usually around Christmas time, I always kind of pull up this document that I've been adding things to about a few different cryptids or supernatural creatures that dwell more in the Arctic Circle. And some of those are from like Norse, sort of the Norse mythology, but there are a few in sort of the North American Arctic that are, I can't think of any of the names off the top of my head, but I can think of their attributes. Sort of one of them is sort of Wendigo like in that it is very sort of gnarled and hungry and likes to sort of make noises outside the tent or the dwelling to entice you out. There are a number of like sort of female so some like winter witch type characters that come to mind. A lot of great winter witches and other sort of there are a few of them. I can't think of the whole. I always pull that list up. I haven't done a ton of research, but whenever I hear about them, I sort of add it because I love around winter. Nothing like a good holiday story of a witch that's going to gut you and leave you out on the tundra.
That's
something for the kids,
Oh, yeah. What about the children? What about the children? Let's move on. We got one more here.
I also love, he's like, I ask this all the time.
1 minute. Donnie Cho is asking, who wins Mermaid versus Megalodon?
Mermaids. There's
Really?
more of them. Yeah, there's more of them. Surround you, sink their teeth deep into you. And then they have those, they have weapons. And they also can have all the animals will do their bidding. I don't even think they would fight the Megalodon. The Megalodon would be like, hey, you guys want to ride?
They're probably best friends hiding out.
They're totally besties. They're like hanging out in the kelp beds.
Yeah. Saw this giant seal the other day, was scoping it out, wondering if I should eat it.
Want to share it?
Yeah.
Plenty of blubber.
I still
plenty
think
of blubber to go
Megalodon
around.
is out there. I do.
Yeah, I mean those stories of like Megalodon, Kraken, you think back also to a time when like the seas were colder and less populated and less, sonar and like more places to hide.
I hear you.
Sure there's a crevasse there that Megalodon's hiding in somewhere.
All right, Varla Ventura returns right after this on Spaced Out Radio. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott.
Dave,
Yeah,
did you notice I'm in a new office? Everything's green instead of
did not
blue.
notice.
Yeah. It's kind of like similar. I put all the same artwork up, but I'm in I
Is that a
switched.
green color?
Yeah, it's a really dark green. It's
Nice.
kind of hard to tell because of the lighting in here right now. I tried to like, I've got some lamps on and stuff, but I don't like it to be too bright. So yeah,
Very
it's a
nice.
really, really, really dark green. I put all my plants in here and yeah, I really like it. So I switched rooms with my son, and now so he has the midnight magic basement
Oh,
basement room.
nice.
Yeah, it's kind of nice for him to have his own space like that. So, okay, so can I read you the cards that I pulled?
Yeah.
The card that I pulled for you specifically?
Apparently, there's a rumor on X right now that NHL player Johnny Goodrow has been killed.
What? No.
Yeah.
I don't trust anything on X.
Yeah. Apparently, well, former referee Tim Peel is reporting on this, or current NHL. No, he's retired.
Okay, what does it say?
Saying that Johnny Goodrow and his brother Matthew were killed by a drunk driver tonight while riding their bikes, getting in shape for the hockey season.
Please tell me that's not true.
I'm hoping that's not true. That will really suck
He's
if it
so
is.
yeah, and he's super young, right?
Well, I think he's 28 or 29 now. But
That's that's pretty young.
that's a
But
hockey
yeah,
player.
yeah.
Midlife, right?
I think you and I are midlife.
Well, I understand that, but
For a hockey player, yes, for a hockey
NHL
player.
career, I mean. But this will really suck
Yeah.
because he's an American legend. Like he went through college as Johnny Hockey, right?
I'm not seeing anything come up in a news feed. So, but I don't know why, why would somebody even say that without it? I don't know. People have weird reasons,
I don't
but
know. Don't know.
oh, well, I really hope that's not true.
Me too. So okay, read a card. We got 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. So the card that I pulled, the card that I pulled for you is the King of Swords, which is totally cool. So, King of Swords is bearded, sitting on his throne. Swords represent air, which represents ideas and the intellect. So it's basically sort of a calm mind and in command of high intellect. And yeah, that's pretty much King of Swords. And then the other card I got was the Star. And then the third card I got was is a particular is it the 6? I can't tell what card it is, but it's a victory card. So I just thought that was nice.
Nice.
Yeah, nice little 3-card reading.
I appreciate that. You know what? I'm glad you decided to do that because I've been doing a lot of contemplation lately with things, not with SOR, just
Things in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Well, this is the Dion Fortune deck. So I don't know if you're familiar with that or you know who she is, but she was an occultist in the 30s and 40s, and well, most
Okay.
of her books came out then. And this card is based on her teachings, or this deck is based on her teachings, and it's kind of an eerie deck. It's got a few very kind of like creepy images in it.
Yeah.
And it's also a deck that I have pulled things from and then seen those things manifest in the world, like the sort of symbolism. Like one time I was in Hawaii and I pulled a card not from this exact deck, but this general deck,
Yeah.
and we looked up into the sky and this clouds formed the thing that was in the card. I can't remember what card it was now. It was like very intense, very, very eerie and intense. So I was just okay, pulling a card for Dave, and I pulled you the King of Swords. So there you go. I'll take a picture of it and send it to you later.
I would love that.
Yeah, it's a good card. It's a really good card. It's very solid. Very like, it's not a big battle card. You've got a sword, but you're not wielding it in the battle. You're sort of holding it, like a king would.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
Nice. There we go. That's a good pull. Here we go, Varla. We're coming back in 7 seconds. Thank you, Cosmic Joe, T-Bone times 2, and Simon for the super chats. All right, here comes the second half of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. Good to have you with us because we are loving broadcasting with Varla Ventura to you tonight. Want to say hello to everyone listening in, wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth, and remind all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, you can always check out our free archives at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Our website, spacedoutradio.com, we have a plethora of features for you. Yes, a plethora. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the Newswire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. Varla Ventura, we have her till the top of the hour. She's one of the top cryptid writers out there. Her books can be found at any major bookstore or online at varlaventura.net, because she doesn't want a .com. She wants to be different. .net. Varla, welcome back.
Hey, goalie mom, gotta have a .net, right?
Goalie mom, yes. Totally have to have a .net. Just the way it is. Just the way it is.
Mm-hmm.
We've talked a lot about a bunch of different creatures tonight. Paranormal wise, as summer gets around, we start preparing for Halloween as the kids go back to school. And yes, Halloween is still more than 2 months away. But hey, if Walmart says it's time to shop for candy, it's time to shop for candy and costumes, right? Isn't that how it's dictated now? I know it shouldn't be, but it is.
In my household and in the household I was raised in, every day was Halloween, Dave. We had Halloween decorations on our Christmas tree. So I'm totally okay with Halloween stuff year round. And I went to the CVS the other day and I didn't buy anything, but I spent some time looking just to see if there's anything I needed to add. I like quality Halloween decorations, things I can really, sport year round.
Well, that's nice. It also means a lot of ghost stories going on, right?
Yes.
So that's kind of important too, is the ghost stories that seem to go around. My question to you regarding ghost stories and Halloween, do you believe that there is a veil out there that we need to be careful of because this alleged veil gets thinner and thinner as we draw closer to Halloween?
Oh, absolutely. I think that the darkness encroaches And as we approach the end of October, at least in the northern hemisphere, let me say, as we approach the end of October and we get closer and closer into winter, before we really quite get into the 'cause winter requires fortitude, right? Winter, no matter where you live, even if you live in Florida, winter has a different weather than summer, and so it requires fortitude to get through those long cold nights, and worse, the long cold days. I don't mind the long cold nights because it's easier, but the days are the days are the problem. You got to go out in it. So I do think that sort of that culmination that happens around Halloween, it's really a moment of like chaos and revelry. And it's part of what we need to get into the fortitude mindset that we need for winter. Because then we get into, we get toward the solstice and we start burning the lights and trying to invoke the good spirits as we enter into the new year and all of that. But when you're basically like, right now we are boarding our broomsticks and we're about to kick them into high gear and we are just going to ride through the night until we get to the cave where all the creatures are going to come flying out on Halloween night. And I think I absolutely, the veil does get thin. And I'll tell you, I had an experience many years ago that really solidified that in my mind. And it was actually on the island of Pátzcuaro, which is in Mexico, which is actually where the Halloween Tree by Ray Bradbury, he talks about this place. And there's a few places in Mexico that are said to be the birthplace of Dia de los Muertos, but the island of Pátzcuaro is kind of known around all of Mexico for having for being this place that is sacred to the dead. And so it's interesting because we were there, I was there with a couple of friends, we're sort of like wandering around, and there's a great deal of revelry. It's a big party. And there's even like a, kind of little bit, not, I wouldn't say frat element, but there's definitely like a youthful party element, taking shots and wandering around this island and buying cool t-shirts and all this there's a party atmosphere. And that goes on, simultaneous with the very serious preparation for the Day of the Dead. So in this cemetery, as it was going from November 1st into November 2nd, at midnight, you can go in the cemetery, but of course you have to, leave the revelry outside the cemetery gates, and you can go into the cemetery. And it honestly, there was a complete atmospheric shift at that moment. And it felt as if the entire area got colder. There were just as many people there. You could hear women wailing and mourning, and that immediately puts you in like this serious mindset because people are in pain and they're calling in the dead. And there were a lot of women doing this, calling in their dead loved ones so they could come and spend time with them and see that they left these beautiful flowers and make sure that they're okay. And I swear to you, Dave, it was in my mind, absolute proof that this veil can be pierced, but only at certain times. Some people, they can do it, all the time. There are people that have a lot of ability to connect with the dead and practice with that. But this was a very otherworldly just experience. And we had some photographs. My friend and I took a few photographs, just sort of like right when you first walked in, and you were allowed to take photographs, you just couldn't use the flash. And in one of them, you can see in this area, you stay kind of back. I mean, you could kind of wander in, but it's a little rude to be like going and like looking at people as they're mourning. And you can see like just hundreds of orbs in the sky. But of course, this was back when photographs were printed later. So I didn't see these photographs until much later, but I could feel this experience, like all of these, all of these spirits were being called down into that cemetery, coming to visit their loved ones who had so lovingly for days, sometimes weeks, made their favorite foods and crafted these beautiful little skulls and flowers and crosses out of sugar and created these elaborate floral arrangements, and so that they weren't forgotten. And so to me, I think like that was very a lot of evidence of the idea of the veil really being thin on certain nights where pretty much anyone can access the contact with the dead. And that's part of the reason that on Halloween we do put on costumes and we kind of try and blend in so that the demons that are among us, they don't try, and they just think we're one of them. That's the idea, because that veil is so thin. But these are beliefs from completely different parts of the world. Ireland is the birthplace of Samhain, the Celtic Halloween, and Dia de los Muertos is in Mexico, and there are other celebrations around the world that have this same idea in mind, that the veil is thin, and so it's a great time to make contact.
Can anybody make contact? Should anybody make contact?
Well, I'm not the moral police, so I'm not here to tell you.
No,
what
I
to
understand
do.
that. I know
Yeah.
you're very politically correct when it comes like that, but there are probably people out there who shouldn't be dabbling in the paranormal.
Well, I think we're talking about something a little bit different, because on at Halloween time, that time of year, yes, anyone can make contact. Absolutely, anyone can. Whether or not people should, I think, probably just comes to the idea that you have to be prepared that you might get what you ask for. And that can be very frightening. However, if your intention is to say hello and talk to someone that you miss very much, then I don't think that there's really anything wrong with that. There's not a lot of like elaborate preparation you need to go through. You just need to be sincere, and it's a great time of year to ask your ancestors and your departed loved ones to help you, to give you guidance. Now, should the average, drunken frat boy sit down at a seance and try and make contact? No, that's disrespectful. It's disrespectful, it's dangerous, and it's just plain rude, right? But I think with like just a few precautionary measures, the average person really can have a very effective and positive experience contacting the dead. I think if it scares you, don't do it. That's what I would say. If it scares you or you're nervous about it, don't do it. I think that I've even been in situations like that. I've been in sort of a seance situation, and I really didn't trust the medium. Literally did not trust the medium, and it really I put up sort of a emotional shield up, and I didn't have an experience because of that, which was okay with me because I didn't believe that the medium had done everything they should do to prepare the space and make sure people were safe. So, but run around saying Bloody Mary into the mirror multiple times. I mean, that's kind of the fun of Halloween. But yeah, I mean, it can certainly be dangerous amongst the irresponsibly inclined.
You mentioned seances, don't kind of mess with things like that. What's the difference between, running around your home with electronic gear trying to prove the paranormal and taking part in a seance.
No, I'm not opposed to seances. I'm just saying I've been in a couple situations where I didn't trust the person conducting the seance, and so it changed the experience for me. I've also been in the complete opposite. So I think so. There are two ways to look at it, and I know that most people who really go about a serious night of ghost hunting, which is the running around trying to record things and have that experience. Most of the time, there's usually someone in the group who performs some kind of like blessing or protection, even if you don't know it. There's probably a witch among you making sure that nothing's attaching itself to you. So that's different. That's investigating. A seance is more of a ritual. It really is a ritual. That's what a seance is. It's a ritual in which you are attempting to contact the dead and have them give you a message. And when you go enter into any ritual space, you're going to walk in the middle of a funeral, and somebody's delivering a sermon or giving the eulogy about something. You walk into that and just, do a couple of shots and just start talking, right? You wouldn't do that. You would enter into that space with reverence and respect, ideally. Yeah, I don't care what you do at mine, but you can take shots off the coffin. I don't care. But I think so. A seance is really a ritual. It usually involves multiple people, and it involves setting a space and then inviting a spirit in. And remember too, so paranormal investigation is kind of about looking for proof or trying to record things. And it's like that curiosity. A seance is really rooted in the idea that the dead are able to give us messages and guidance. And so that's the very root of the spiritualist movement, which became very popular in the US in, post-Civil War, because people were wanting to make contact with the dead and then get messages from them, whether it was like, it's okay here, we're okay, we're at peace, or if it was like, lottery numbers, things that you were seeking you had a question and you were getting answers from the dead or an entity that you were contacting during these sessions. And so it was it's a very ritualistic setting. There's usually an opening and a closing. So it's just it's still making contact with the dead and still having conversations with the dead, but it's probably like what you're trying to learn from them that is really the fundamental difference.
Right. Major Lee
can be fun.
Major Lee says, "Hi, Carla. Can you please link your most definitively evidence that clarifies your research?"
I mean, I'm not going to link something. You can read my books.
Your storytelling. No, I'll defend you on this one because he's playing the grifting mode over the last couple of months because of Lou Elizondo's book.
Oh,
He's trying to play the show me proof card. Which,
well, you can buy all my books and read them, and then you can make up your own mind.
Yeah. Thanks, Carla. Carla Ventura is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. So, yeah. There is no proof in this, people. How many times do we have to tell you? There is no proof in this field.
And I think that is, for me, that's really part of the joy of it, is that you can choose to believe or accept whatever you'd like. That is up to you. Certainly people have various levels of what they would call evidence. Unless you see it or experience it with your own eyes, you really can't trust that evidence is entirely true. You can trust a person. But it's certainly for me and for the aspects that I like to explore, the insatiable need for proof is not relevant to the idea that the stories and storytelling in and of themselves can put you into another world. And so I just think it's a very I'm not quite sure how to say it. It's a very modern and ego-driven idea that we must have proof. However, I also know that there are many reasons we would want proof, especially if we're talking about like science or medicine. But I think when it comes to the world of the paranormal, you'll have many people involved in that will have never had an experience, that are waiting to have an experience and want to believe. Like wasn't that Mulder's whole thing? He'd never had the experience and he was investigating it. He wanted to believe. But yeah. I mean,
Let's go to Paramarv's question as we got 4.5 minutes. Varla, is there a cryptid that correlates to or inspired the boogeyman?
Yeah. Well, okay. So the very word boogie, for boogeyman, comes from bogey, which is sort of a Gaelic word for a fairy creature that dwelled sort of frequently. There was in Wales, there was something called a bogle or a bogey, and it was frequently a portent of death, and it often dwelled at the crossroads. So it was something that you kind of wanted to avoid under all costs, because it was probably indicating that you were likely to die, or someone close to you would die. So you have, this is one of those things where the word has sort of evolved into different things. Then you also have a period of time in which bogies were kind of all the little men out there, like all the good people, or whatever you want to call them. All of the fairies were sort of referred to as bogies, and these could be, giant teeth gnashing giants. They could be shape-shifting horses. They could be tricksters who were trying to steal your baby. I mean, all manner of things. They would kind of be referred to as bogies. And then that evolved into boggle, and that also has a correlation with the word goblin. And there are a lot of different kinds of what you might call a goblin or hobgoblin, but in general, goblins are extremely mischievous and often cause a lot of mayhem and chaos, and are sometimes associated with tormenting children. So I think the idea of like the boogeyman, which is like the boogeyman is going to get you, and I think we have a lot of different ideas of this like shadowy creature, but it was the thing that was at the crossroads just on the other side of the shadows, that you just knew was there, and you could see it watching you, but you couldn't actually see it. So that's kind of the origin of the phrase the boogeyman.
The boogeyman. And here I thought the boogeyman was based off of like a serial killer breaking into houses and hiding under beds to kidnap children or kill women.
I mean, there may be more modern aspects of that. I mean, I'm diving back into the 1800s with the as Gaelic, Welsh, and Irish became less frequently spoken, and English became the more dominant language, especially in the written language, and people were calling things different names, but the words kind of evolved. So, but they were all kind of referring to these mischievous creatures that you didn't really want to mess with, right? Like, they could do no harm if you were really good to them, but generally speaking, you didn't want to cross them. You didn't want to encounter them. You would avoid them at all costs, because they cause mischief and mayhem and steal things from you. And, they can bring on the pox just as easily as they can cure it.
Well, you know what?
Yeah.
We have 1 minute to go here with you. Hard to believe this show has flown on by. Once again, it's been delightful. We'll be back next month because you're that awesome.
Yes, I will be.
It's like
yes, I will be back next month, and thank you for calling me awesome.
Well, you know what? I normally do call you awesome because I absolutely adore every time you are on this show. And let everybody know where they can find your books.
Yes, you can find my books wherever books are sold. That's all everywhere. They're available everywhere. Actually, they're all in print. You can get them at the local bookstore. You can get them on bookshop.org. You can get them on Amazon, Barnes and Noble, library. They are pretty much, I believe, all still in print. There's 6 or so of them. Soon to be 7.
Well, Varla, thank you for coming on once again. We love you. We're all big fans of yours here on Spaced Out Radio.
Thanks so much, Dave.
Coming up next, we head to the swamp. Then Robin Haynes is here, if she has a connection. After that, it's a Dave 101. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with your host, Dave Scott. Carla Ventura, thank you very
Carla
much.
Ventura. That's a new one. That's all right. Probably someone just listening, so they didn't get the.
I'm gonna bug Major Lee on that one now.
That's
You're
okay.
grifting, Carla Ventura. You're grifting.
Don't care. What of it? Grifting and grousing. That's the title for tonight.
All right, my dear. Gotta
Okay.
run.
Thanks, Dave. Have a
Take
great
care.
night. All right.
Love
Bye.
you, dear. Bye. Varla Ventura. I'll be right back, everybody. I gotta refill my water bottle. The Robinator is here. And we got about a minute to go. T-Bone times 2. Simon and Joe, thank you for the wonderful, wonderful super chats. Greatly appreciate that. Excuse me. And don't forget you can shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, everybody. We do not have ugly swag. No ugly swag. Because we want to make sure everything looks nice around here. We're going to get going here in about 5 seconds. So sit tight, relax. We're going to have some fun. All right, here comes the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. My name is Dave Scott. You're the audience. I bring you weird stories each and every night. And together, we love them all night long. Want to say hello to everyone listening in on our terrestrial affiliates around North America, digitally on every major podcast network. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire, check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. The Desert Clam has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. What do you got for us tonight, Clam? Well, let's take a look. Hemathermal. Hemathermal is your password. Use it wisely, Space Travelers, as the Clam sets password each and every night right here on Spaced Out Radio. Let's head to the swamp.
Hello and welcome to Spaced Out Radio's Swamp. I'm Swamp Dweller, and tonight I'm going to take you on a mystic journey of the unknown, sharing tales of monsters, legends, and nightmares. Welcome to the Spaced Out Radio Swamp. Hiking alone has been a source of solace for me. The woods with their towering trees and whispering leaves feel like a sanctuary, a place where I can truly unwind and connect with nature. But one particular hike near the French border in Germany turned into an experience I can neither fully explain nor forget. It was a scorching summer day, and I was already on my way back from a long hike. The sun beat down relentlessly, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and earth. As I trudged along the narrow, winding path, a sign caught my eye. It announced a small spring just 200 meters to the left, a spot used for Christian pilgrimage back in the day. They were rebuilt after the famous grottos back in the day. Intrigued and eager for a break, I decided to check it out. The path to the spring was overgrown but inviting, shaded by a canopy of ancient-looking trees. As I approached, I spotted a roebuck gracefully drinking from the water that trickled naturally from a small, moss-covered grotto. The sight was serene, almost magical. I sat down by the edge of the spring, letting the cool water refresh my neck and cheeks. The chill was a welcome relief from the oppressive heat, but I was careful not to drink any of the water. After a few minutes of peaceful rest, I stood up, ready to tackle the last stretch back to my car. That's when everything changed. The forest, which had felt so tranquil moments before, suddenly seemed to shift. An instinctive feeling of imminent danger washed over me, making my heart pound in my chest. I strained my ears and heard a sound, a deep, resonant voice speaking in a strange ancient language. It seemed to emanate from the trees themselves. A sense of urgency gripped me, and I began to walk faster, my senses on high alert. Suddenly, the forest came alive with the sounds of hasty footsteps all around me. They echoed from behind, from above in the trees, like a dozen small creatures were chasing me, Shadows fitted between the trees, but no matter how hard I tried to focus, I could not see what was making the noises. Panic began to set in, and I broke into a run, stumbling over gnarled roots and uneven ground. Minutes felt like hours as I fled the small water grotto, quickly disappearing from view. Just as I thought I couldn't run any further, I heard a deep female voice. It spoke calmly, uttering a few words in an ancient language from somewhere to the left of the track, behind a large weathered rock. Then, as suddenly as it begun, everything just stopped. In the blink of an eye, the forest returned to its normal state. The birds resumed their singing, and a peaceful calm settled over the woods once more. Breathing heavily, I slowed my pace and looked around. Everything appeared as it had before, but I knew something had changed. To this day, I have no logical explanation for what happened. Maybe it was just my imagination, a result of the heat and exhaustion playing tricks on me. Or perhaps it was something more. A glimpse into the ancient past of these woods. A place where Christian and Celto-Germanic histories intertwined, leaving behind echoes of an old magic and forgotten rituals.
Thank you, Swamp Dweller, for another crazy story. You are the best. Welcome, everybody. That was the Swamp Dweller. If you want more just like that, head on over to his channel. He's got over 300,000 subscribers on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe on his channel because the stories come at you almost every day, brand new, and they are amazing. From the swamp to the weird world of cryptids, one of my favorites is here. Here's Robin Haynes. Robin Haynes, how are you doing tonight?
I'm good. I love the music. I got to be honest with you. I'm loving it.
I know, with a little sprinkle of the Sierra sounds in behind it.
Yes. Yeah.
I was talking
So,
to some First Nations people earlier today, and we were talking about Bigfoot. And I told them that I have a couple places out here that are very, very intriguing regarding Bigfoot. And I'll tell you, I almost missed my next appointment because we were too into the Bigfoot conversation.
yeah, they know a lot about them. In fact, if you go and find out what land, what Native Americans lived on that land in that area, you'll find out a lot about the Sasquatch there. Now, not that some haven't traveled to that area or come from different regions or whatever, but they follow Native American traditions. And the Native Americans most of them, not all tribes, but a lot of tribes had a really good relationship with them. And a lot of their ways, a lot of the things that they do, a lot of their culture will parallel with the Native Americans.
Why do you think that First Nations people have the majority of them, not all of them, but the majority of them have this belief that Sasquatch is more a spiritual creature than a flesh and blood?
Number one, I think that when it comes to their mindset, they're a lot more open than we are. I mean, I think we really need to appreciate that. They're a lot more open. They have, I'm sorry, you guys, I'm having problems with Bengal cats tonight. They are a lot more open. They have seen more. They've lived among them. They've watched them. They've studied them. The Sasquatch are less afraid of them. There are certain tribes throughout the world that they have fought against, but primarily they've done much better with the Native Americans than they ever did with us. If you go back in history far enough, they've traded with them. There have been tribes that they did not get along with, yes. but primarily they actually do. And there's a lot of respect, I think, between the Sasquatch and the Native Americans. But I tend to find that the ones that I've talked to, their mindset when it comes to the paranormal is much more open, much more, not forgiving, but I think they're just more accepting of it. And I think because of their culture, it flows more than it does ours. Our people tend to be much more closed off and closed-minded. And when they do see anything paranormal, they don't want to accept what it is. Where my experience with Native Americans, that's not the way they are. I think there's so much we can learn from them.
I can see that. I can totally see that. And the one thing that never mind the evidence crowd, but those who are more into the storytelling, these stories go on for millennia.
Yeah, they do. They go way back. And the thing of it is when you listen to them, there is a lot of stories that always combine the Native American people with the Sasquatch. I think years and years ago, it was, they all shared the land. They did. And the ones that they didn't get along with, it was almost like they had, certain boundaries that they would go, and that there was respect for each other. I think the Native Americans respect the Sasquatch far more than our people do. And as anybody that's seriously into it and works with them and tries to study them and interact with them, respect is a big thing. And respect is earned. It's not just given. You don't just get respect because you think you deserve it. You earn it. And from what I've seen, the Native Americans are much more respectful of the Sasquatch.
Yes. Yeah, there's a lot of different avenues there that I have learned as well through that. My question to you is on investigation. We see a lot of people running through the forest, running down trails, trying to find these things, going deep and hidden into the forest, thinking that that's where you have to go in order to find the tree structures. And in a lot of cases, that's true. But if you find a hot spot, you don't really need to do that, do you?
No. And that isn't your best bet. Okay. If you are lucky enough to find an area with structures, first off, don't touch them. Okay. You don't mess with them. It's disrespectful. You wouldn't want somebody coming into your home and rearranging your furniture. So it's a form of communication for them. You don't need to be messing with them. Look at them if you want to study them. That's your business, whatever. But the thing of it is, let them come to you. Nobody wants to be hunted and chased. If you're out walking in the woods, and even if it's another one of our humans are out there and they start chasing you, you're going to be angry. You're going to run away, or you're going to stand and fight. And yet we expect them to be different. They are a type of people. And if you just go out there with a pure heart, go have a bonfire, laugh. When you laugh, your frequency goes up. Laugh, be joyful. Just sit there and let them come to you. They feel safer when they're in control of the situation. And they're never going to let you have control of the situation anyway. So it's just like when you're out, Dave, you get success. You get success because you go, you have your camp, you're there. You may look around, and there's nothing wrong with walking through the woods and seeing what's out there, but you're not chasing them through the woods. You're respectful. That's why you get results. That's why a lot of people get results. When you're chasing them through the woods, you may get results, but it may not be what you want. And even if you do get a sighting, or you actually get some proof that they're there, you want a good experience for you and them, not a bad one. The bad ones, when you have a bad experience, it's like word of mouth travels, and none of them want any more to deal with you at that point. You're disrespectful for them. You have an ego. You have a low vibration. You have a low frequency. It physically makes them sick when you have a low frequency and low vibration. They don't, or energy. They don't want that around them. And you chasing them down and running them down like you're hunting them is not going to endear you to them. And once you're on that bad person's list, they don't want you back on it. And news spreads. Go out there with love in your heart. Go out there with a pure heart. Be respectful. If you see the structures, look at the structures. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't handle them because it is a written language for them. There's a purpose for everything that they do. And then don't make your camp inside the structure area. Do it on the outside of that area. So you're not being intrusive. Make your camp, enjoy yourself, be joyful, and just sit there. Cook some food on the grill so they can smell it. Whatever you're going to do, but stay in that spot and let them maneuver themselves around you. Don't you try to maneuver around them, because number one, you're never going to see how many are really there, and they're seldom by themselves. They may look like they're by themselves, but there's some that are not that far away. Let them maneuver around you. It gives them comfort. It makes them feel safe. It makes them feel secure, and you will have a much better experience that when you go out again, they are more than likely willing to interact with you. Where when you chase them down, now you're on, the world's most hated list, and they don't want anything to do with you. And if they do want anything to do with you, it's because they're worried you're going to do something to them, and it's not going to end well.
That makes sense. And so the last couple of weeks we've gone to our one Sasquatch site twice, and I brought a new guy out there and his wife, Tim, who's my UFO reporter, and his wife, Lorelei. And, it was about 10 minutes before, about 10 minutes before we left. We had to leave because there was a lightning storm that rolled over top of us.
Mm-hmm.
But we heard the thump, thump, like the two heavy footsteps. Why is it always two heavy footsteps? It's never three. It's never four. It's always like thump, thump. What's with that?
I think they do it just so that you're aware that they're there, and then they go back in that stealth mode. They're normally, you can't even hear them moving through the forest to begin with. And I think they purposely do that, not only so that you're aware, they want you to hear it, so they're there, but they also do it because it sends off, it's almost like Morse code for the other ones. Everything they do is communication between each other, where it's through the collective consciousness and mind speak, to stick structures, to vocals that they do, or they imitate other animals or wood knocks or whatever, or the foot stomps. It's a form of communication to communicate with each other, almost like a Morse code, so they know what's going on.
Yeah, and then we went back last weekend, and let me rephrase that. Before, we heard when we heard the thump thump, Lorelei raised her flashlight up, and Tim actually saw one kind of backing off from the flashlight from behind a tree, more into the dark.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, I thought that was really cool. And then last weekend, Tim and I went out there, and we had a wood knock probably 40 yards away from us.
Wonderful. See, you get the activity, you're getting it, and it gets more and more, but you're doing things the right way. You're doing it respectful, you're doing it the right way, and you're doing it in a manner that they feel comfortable maneuvering around you. That's the key to it. Let them have that moment of control where they're handling it and they can put themselves in a position around you. That way they don't feel threatened, they don't feel confined, they don't feel backed into a corner. Let them maneuver things around you for their comfort zone. If you really and truly want interaction, you let them make those decisions, because that's the only way they're going to feel comfortable enough for the interaction and to continue the interaction. You get bad interaction, and that's exactly what it's going to continue to be. And you can't undo that. They're not one that gives second chances very often. And so if you can start it out on the right foot, which is exactly what you've done in your group, and you're respectful of it, and you're giving them their space, but yet they're allowed to get close to you, that's why you get the results that you get.
Well, that makes sense. That totally makes sense.
And people need to too.
Saturday.
Are you?
Yeah.
That'll be good. I wanted, if we can for just a second, make people aware that we're coming on the end of summer now. Activity with them will pick up about this time. and they are gathering food and storing it for winter. So just be mindful of the fact that they are out more than they normally are. People that have farms and have barns that have a lot of straw, hay, grains, those kinds of thing in there, don't be surprised if a couple bales of straw or hay turn up missing, or feed turns up missing, you know, or maybe eggs from your chickens are coming up missing more. They are getting ready for winter. And just kind of like an FYI for everybody, you know, they might be out a little bit more so than normal. Generally through the end of August and through September is when you see it pick up. I tend to see a lot of, depending on the area, I see a lot of activity in October, but it just depends on if you're in an area that's heavy, you know, with snow and cold at that point. So, you know, just kind of be mindful. They're out and about a little bit more than normal. And if you notice a few supplies gone, it's not uncommon.
What's with the movement? What do they?
I'm
Where do
so
they store their
sorry.
food?
Oh, over here?
Yeah, where do they store their food? What,
Oh, I thought you were
they
talking about
have-
what was going on here. Well, they have caves. They have underground caves. They have the regular caves, abandoned barns, abandoned buildings. You know, in Detroit, Michigan, they've seen them in these abandoned houses in the subdivisions, and they'll go in there. So, I mean, all of these, any place that they can get into, they will.
What do they feed on?
Meat, vegetables, they're omnivores. They will eat vegetation. They will eat meat of any kind. You know, there's times that they will use bark, they will use spruce pine. White spruce has healing properties in it. They also use it for protection. They believe that it offers some kind of a paranormal protection for them. Anything that they think that they can eat, they will. Berries, nuts, all of these things.
2 minutes to go. Ross Dogs wants to know, is there a Bigfoot creature in South America? Why
Absolutely.
or why not?
Absolutely. There's nowhere that they aren't. I know people that are in Hawaii and they have a smaller version in Hawaii. Okay, we have to go back to the fact that they have portals, they can travel, they can go wherever they want to go. And they really, there's no place that is off limits. I mean, even as cold as Antarctica is, there is some that actually will go there. Certain areas they're not going to because it's just too awful cold, but they'll go underground. I mean, they will make underground caverns. They will use the cave systems. They will use, you know, abandoned buildings, anything that they can. They'll use the branches on the trees and make it. Russia, we found, I didn't personally find it, but Igor Borstov had sent me photos of where they had built things there, you know, but they are all over the world. There's not a place that they don't have access to.
They're on every continent except Antarctica, as far as we know, correct?
Well, there have been rumors that they have seen them in Antarctica, but my personal belief is that there's certain areas in Antarctica that are so bitter cold that they probably aren't there any more than any other kind of wildlife would. Now, these are a type of people. They are not an animal, but if it's, and where it's not going to have animals there for them to feed on, they're not going to be there. They've got to have a food source.
Right.
So, you know, certain areas they're not going to be there.
Right.
But yeah, they are all over the world.
15 seconds. Where can people find you?
You can find me at www.paranormal-empowerment.com. Or if you go on Facebook, I'm under Robin Haynes. If you see Robin L. Haynes, that's not me. You want Robin Haynes, Haynes. Or you can find me here.
Love you, Robin. We'll talk to you next
Love
week.
you too.
Coming up next on Spaced Out Radio, it's the Dave 101 and the weird news of the week.
This is Spaced Out Radio and your host, Dave Scott.
All right. You're so full of it, Major Lee. Oh, you make me eye roll. You make me eye roll. Good night, T-Bone. I'm getting a haircut on Monday. Joe, I'm tired tonight, to be blunt. I'm pretty tired. Oh, I wish Tim James would bring some Taco Bell. I might have to settle for 7-Eleven. Which never has any food at this time of night. Aaron P., I wish that was the case. You can ask Tim James how hard I work. Very true, Swampy. Very true. Says 7-Eleven food at midnight hits different. When you live in a small town like we do, you don't get a lot of options after 8 p.m. Yes, Paramarv, the closest Taco Bell is about 2 hours away. They were astonished that the creature showed itself to me. Bombshell bomber. I showed them the pictures of footprints and all that kind of stuff for my area. They're blown away. Alphabet, how you doing? Where you been hiding? I love Robin. Rose Demaray, how are you? Fire sauce is good. I like the Diablo one better. Tim James, that's what we should do on Sunday. We should just pack up and drive down to Taco Bell in Kamloops. I'm dead serious about that, by the way. 100% dead serious. As the boomers say, I'm as serious as a heart attack. Oh, I'd love to broadcast from Taco Bell. Thank you to T-Bone times 2, Simon, and Cosmic Joe for the great super chats tonight. Very much appreciate the love and support. Moody Mongol, with the way my work schedule is right now, probably not for a bit. I'm being really overworked right now, to be blunt. Hi, Ashley. Welcome to our chat. Here we go with the final half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. Good to have you with us. My name is Dave Scott. Greatly appreciate you tuning us on in wherever you are on this beautiful planet we call Earth. Reminder to all of you that if you missed portions of this show or others, check out our free archives by going to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do old Davey the favor. Hit that subscribe button. Our website, spacedoutradio.com. We have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, read the news wire. Check out our swag as well. Follow us on X at Spaced Out Radio, Instagram at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on Patreon in the Space Travelers Club. All right, it's that time of the night, that time of the week, where I yell at everybody to get off my lawn, because it's the Dave 101.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E! What is this?
Dave's not here. It's the Dave 101.
I can see you're really upset about this. I honestly think you ought to sit down calmly, take a stress pill, and think things over.
Leave the killer! Yeah! Leave the killer!
It's a mess.
Love or hate Lou Elizondo. It's going to be irrelevant to the point that I make, but it was nice to finally see the robot UFO man actually show some emotion. Earlier this week, News Nation and investigative journalist Ross Coulthart released a clip of Elizondo getting a little emotional and fired up when the topic of fellow whistleblower David Grush came up. To put it in perspective, exactly what Elizondo stated was that he was pretty upset at the treatment of Grush, especially by those in the media and on social media who were basically ripping him a new one for coming out and saying what he knew. From grifter to liar and everything in between, Grush has felt the brunt of it all, including having his medical records leaked to a minor league UFO reporter and literally tainting him as somebody who is psychotic and uncontrollable rather than somebody respectable who holds top secret clearance in a UFO program. Elizondo also stated that him and Grush actually worked for Space Force, looking into UFOs. Now, if you recall, it was Donald Trump who set up Space Force. And they were, as we've said on the show already this week, the key was to put missile defense systems in space and watch the satellites, watch the sky, who's spying on America, Russians, Chinese, North Koreans, Iranians, any type of terrorist organization, until Ted Cruz from Texas dropped the awesome and absolutely ludicrous Space Pirates comment. Yep. One of these days, we're going to make a t-shirt on the Spaced Out Radio website for that. Space Pirates. I know exactly what I want there, too. But here's the big thing. We need more people coming out and talking about this. If you want any type of disclosure, which I personally do not believe in, we need people to talk. And we need more people other than the same people over and over again sharing the same stories to really blow open this conversation. For instance, why hasn't Elizondo been invited to the hearing yet? That's a big question mark that needs to be asked. Elizondo has now come out and stated he would testify if he was asked, and by all means, he should testify, even if he is testifying on a threat narrative. One other person whose name keeps popping up, and it popped up again today on X, is Donna Hare. Now, you may not recognize the name of Donna Hare, but that's okay. You see, from 1967 to 1981, Donna worked at a place called Philco Ford Aerospace. She was a design illustrator draftsman. She did launch slides, landing slides, and also projected plotting boards for lunar maps for NASA. She worked for a contractor. But you see, the other thing that Donna was able to do was view NASA photographs. And then she learned about this little hidden program they have within inside NASA. And what do they do there? They wash the photographs of anything anomalous. In fact, she was quoted as saying, there was an aerial photograph of the Earth. I'm assuming the Earth because it had pine trees on it. And the shadows of a craft or whatever it was were at the same angle as the trees and by its very nature, a UFO. And I wanted to clarify that the gentleman that was talking to me, so I didn't know what this was, but realized at this point it was very secret. So what did they do? They erased the UFO from the photo. And Donna has been interviewed on this show a number of years ago. We are going to effort to get her back because I think her words, more than ever right now, are actually extremely relevant. And she could put a real dent in NASA and their publicity, namely their great leader, dear Bill Nelson, former astronaut, former senator, who thinks that NASA has nothing to hide on this, even though we know different. Yeah, Bill is in denial. So many others are as well. New voices with claims, and hopefully they can back it up, need to go to Congress. They need to get updated, and they need to be able to say their stories. For if they don't, then their voices fall silent, which is what the bigwigs who want to keep this story quiet want to do. We don't want that. We don't need that. Why don't we need it? Well, because that means the cover-up continues. It's pretty obvious, I believe. Now, what we want to make sure of moving forward is we want to make sure that everything is covered under this when it comes to the new congressional hearings that are allegedly going to be coming up in the next couple of months, if at all, before the election. Now, I can't see this going personally before the election. I could see it happening after, but time will tell. I think they may try and rush one in because of the defense budget that is coming up, which includes more on UFOs. But the cover-up continues. We've learned from Elizondo that there are many different groups that are looking into this, from British Aerospace to Raytheon, Lockheed Martin to Northrop Grumman, Boeing, and many, many others. They want to know what these craft are. They've been given, according to Elizondo, permission to try and reverse engineer these craft. What about the bodies? Where are they hidden? Who's looking after them? That's something we need to know as well. Over the next few weeks, I expect we see more stepping over the lines on both sides of the ledger. We've seen it already this week with Eric Davis, the scientist of the Wilson Davis documents, where at first he said Elizondo never worked for OSAP, and then yesterday, oh, well, maybe I was misquoted, maybe I was a little wrong. And to update it today, him and Elizondo plan on having a conversation about OSAP and ATIP. The drama continues, all because Lou Elizondo wrote a book. And whether you like him or not, congratulations to Elizondo. Right now, he is the New York Times best-selling author in nonfiction. We knew that was going to happen. That was only obvious. The media tour has been impressive. Hell, I booked my book from Amazon a month and a half ago, and I still haven't got it. I'd like to take some notes. I'd like to read what's different than the audio version I've been binging on. And then there's the proof. Everybody complaining. Where is the proof? The proof is not out there. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner you realize that we're judging this entire spectrum on anecdotal stories for the most part. Do you really think Lockheed Skunk Works or Boeing Skunk Works or Raytheon Skunk Works or any of these multi-billion-dollar companies that are invested in UFO research and probably reverse engineering are going to respond to an email from Joe Blow on X saying, you're grifting if you don't give it up what you have? And there's no way you can FOIA it because they are a private company, which are ineligible for FOIA requests. The proof is not there. It will never be there, at least maybe in our lifetimes. We're still fighting for information on Roswell 72 years ago, where the majority of people who were there at the time are dead. If you want proof, go to a recipe book and make yourself a nice dessert, because the proof will be there that you actually did it. That's the proof. If you're not willing to accept anecdotal stories on this, there's nothing I can tell you. You can either become a debunker, an accuser, or whatever you want, but it isn't going to make a difference, because the powers that be who hold the technology, who hold the bodies, are not going to give it up to the American public or the world public for that matter. They don't care. The game is a long game. It's not a short quarter. And that's not going to change. It's not going to change at all. So you can accept it or just give up on the topic. I've accepted it. I don't need proof. I've had my own proof. My proof is going to be different from another experiencer's proof. And that's not to say that to sound negative, guys. It's not to be negative at all. What it is a reality that if everything is true, even if 10% is true and the rest is just sort of espionage, we have a real world issue on our hand. There is no proof. There is no admittance. All there is anecdotal stories. And for those who are criticizing Elizondo, this will be my final word to you. If you were involved in ufology prior to the 2017 New York Times article and the formation of the near-defunct To the Stars Academy, you will know this. The word on the street from all the names in ufology was, if we could just get one guy from the inside to talk about this subject, it's going to blow it wide open. Now we have two, in Elizondo and Grush. And look what we've done to them. That's not cool, ufology. It's not cool at all. You don't have to like them. You don't have to believe them. But at least give them the respect that any human being deserves, which is they're trying. And the effort is worth it. That's your Dave 101. Let's get to the news.
Open up the door, it's Dave! Who? Dave, D-A-V-E!
Oh, that's the wrong news intro. Here we go.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News.
Loud noises!
I am good at things, fighting and reading the news.
It's time once again for Spaced Out Radio's Weird News of the Week.
Oh, where to start? Let's start here. How about this? You've heard of the Mile High Club, but have you ever heard of the Mile Below Club? Yeah, me either. But it seems this couple might be the very first members of it after their moment of passion in a parked car ended up with them both being immersed in Philadelphia's Schuylkill River. In the early hours of the morning, instead of waiting for a cold shower when they got home, this pair accidentally opted for a dunk in the 135-mile-long river which runs through eastern Pennsylvania this past week. The daring duo was getting randy inside a 2020 Range Rover near the water's edge of the Fairmount Park when the car started to roll and they made a vital error. Yeah, so let this be a warning to anyone who wants to make sweet love in the motor vehicle. Make sure you stay well away from ponds, rivers, lakes, and oceans. Otherwise, you will face a very soggy end to your sexual relations quickly. Yeah, the unidentified couple were having a blast, doing their thing in the back seat. Why didn't they put the e-brake on? Put the e-brake on, people. And if you're using a manual transmission, put it in reverse so you're not rolling into the water if you pulled up to it. Just a couple of tips there. Not from experience, just logic. Somehow, one of the overzealous lovebirds accidentally bumped the vehicle into gear with one of their limbs while it was getting steamy, caused the vehicle to start rolling as they nudged it into drive. Within a moment, and probably long before the duo had a chance to get their clothes back on, the white Range Rover tumbled over the edge and right into the river. The good news is they were able to escape from the river, sheepish and soaking wet. The couple luckily managed to escape from it before it sank and went below the surface. Yeah, they're lucky to be alive. That is one night of making love that they will never forget. Well, I don't know about you guys, but I don't even know if I should read this one, but I will. Sticking with body parts. Matthew Barr gained notoriety in April when he appeared on the UK television show This Morning. Well, he's opened up further in a new interview about the long and short of his daily life. I've had people ask me to come around and clean their house naked or something. Most of the stuff is way too explicit to print. Why? Because he's known as the man with Britain's largest penis. Yep. As far as day-to-day things like getting dressed, Barr admitted that he has to buy a size up in order to hold his member high. Waist size, always make sure there's plenty of room up front. You can get some good ones, he detailed, by adding wearing a compression underwear for too long can be extremely uncomfortable. During his interview, the man with over 14 inches does come with its share of health issues, including that getting an erection actually makes him feel sick. It just means there's a lot of issues with blood flow, he said. That's partly why my size kind of fluctuates a bit as well, because it's very difficult to have that much blood flowing around there. Oh, the poor guy. Poor guy. You know, we complain a lot about teachers these days. I don't know about this guy. I really don't. This happened in California, where a principal of a high school has now been placed on leave, literally after trying to get a lap dance from the school's mascot. They call it weird dancing in the story. On Friday, August 16th, a back-to-school rally was held at Buhatch Colony High School in Atwater, California. Students, parents, teachers, and other members of the staff congregated in the gym. However, one father took to social media to share a video from the event showing the principal of the school engaging in some questionable antics. Ryan Attenberry, whose 14-year-old son attends the school, literally said Principal Robert Nunez was acting like an idiot. Nunez could be spotted sitting on an office chair in the middle of the gym with someone dressed up as the mascot, Thor, in front of him, spinning around, wiggling their bums at him, and the principal setting off a hand-felled confetti cannon. The pair then swapped places, the principal pushing the mascot down onto the chair before leaning down over them, then running off before eventually pushing the chair along through the tunnels of students. Oh, and during all of this, he also grabs a mic and shouts, "What happens at Buhatch stays at Buhatch." Attenbury captions outread, "Am I square, or was this weird as, for a principal to do in front of his students?" Yeah, paid leave for this guy. Probably was intoxicated or just trying to be woke. Remember the saying, don't do that at school. It just doesn't pan out. That's your weird news of the week. As we say hello to Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal, rocking in the background with Little Brother is watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at work, at home, in your cars, wherever you may be. Thank you to everyone in our chat rooms tonight. YouTube, Twitch, Elgap, Facebook, Spreaker, LinkedIn, the Space Travelers Club, and on X, hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Remember, this show is copyright by Spaced Out Radio and SOR Media Ventures Limited. Thank you so much for sharing your evening with us, because together, my friends,
we're watching.
We own the night. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Yes, the Woo train has docked for the night, but soon, my friends, we shall ride again. Your seats are always available. Your tickets never expire. And if you want to bring a friend, we've got room for them too. Good night, everybody. Good show. That worked for me. And my voice held up. I could feel it going a couple of times. But that's okay. We made it. Good job, team. Good job. We'll quit that. Load that up there. Bring this here. Go there. Do like this. Go here. Download. Lovely. Lovely as punch. Hey, Tim, I am dead serious about that Taco Bell thing, but I may not work this weekend because my grandson comes over tomorrow, and I'm going to be hanging out with him. Maybe the following weekend. I bought this hat at the airport when I was trying to. I had to connect through Dallas. When I was going to Nebraska last year, and so I saw this hat like literally about within 10 minutes of getting off the plane, and I was because I've only ever connected. I've never spent time in Texas, and I've always wanted to, and so I just really liked the hat. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I'm buying that." You know, that's what I did. That's what I did, man. All right, let's get that going here. Oh my God. Remember the days when every time you opened up a website, you got pop-up ads and then they kind of disappeared for a while? Anybody else notice that pop-up ads are starting to come back? It's like there's this new era of pop-up ads. Drives me crazy. Really does. Drives me crazy. Tomorrow night's guest, the crypto guru, Ronald L. Murphy Jr. Guru time tomorrow. Got guru time. I love guru time. If I see one more Evany ad for that idiotic Evany game that makes you all their ads are like the dumbest moves ever that you would make in a video game. I hate that. Hate it with a passion. Oh, for God's sakes. Let's go like that. Maybe a little bit like this. Over there. Copy. Paste. Yep. I hate that ad too, Tim Mothman and his goatee. I am doing well. My hair is getting a little grayer, but that's okay. I think there's the end of that one. Yeah. I had sushi for dinner tonight. I'm like such a sushi beginner. It's hilarious. I'm into I don't know what changed in me, but all of a sudden I can get seaweed down. So just not into the fish thing. Although I do like some California rolls. Yeah, that's solitary cash game. Their commercials. I played one video game. I actually had to get rid of it because their commercials, like you play like 2 minutes on the game, when you finish a level, then you would have literally a 60 to 90-second commercial. Now, I don't mind commercials. I actually will sit through them because you know what? Advertisers are trying to get their product out, and there are some things that I do enjoy. Okay, really. That there's no bones about that. Okay. Where is the okay, that's hold on. I'm just having troubles finding my spot on this one. Okay, that looks like the end there.
So I just thought that was 3-card reading.
Mm-hmm.
And then is that I pulled for you is the King of Swords.
You're
a hockey player. Yes, yes. For a
NHL
hockey
career,
player.
I mean. But this will really suck because he's an American. What was a break? There's the break. Oh gosh. Undo. Let's go here. Let's bring that here. Let's go over here. Copy and paste. Yeah, I got rid of that game. But they had this one kid, he'd always wear his hat backwards. And it's like his hat was starched and he just wore it like just barely on top of his head. Like just if you don't know how to wear a ball cap, don't wear one, you momo. Like am I wrong at saying that? Is that wrong? There's the gap there. Okay, Lee, you're going to have to tell me, how is a guy who gets paid to cover the UFO story now a grifter? He's a hired journalist by News Nation. How is he a grifter for accepting a job or a contract or whatever he accepted? Enlighten me on this, please, because I'm confused. Carla, I'm not even being sarcastic with you, Lee. I'm just curious. Well, obviously not. He's obviously not a failed journalist if he got hired to do a job. So that's not a good argument. Are we using opinion? News Nation is actually a channel in the United States who has very deep pockets to hire people. It is a streaming news station. I'm looking at their bio right now. What's fake news? All right, guys. Tomorrow night we got the crypto guru, Ronald Murphy, coming on. And my throat's sore, so that's why I'm cutting this off. Thank you to Simon in Australia ×2, T-Bone ×2, Cosmic Joe for the super chat. Excuse me. I will see you all tomorrow to finish off the week. Good night, Dry Toes. It's a fake channel for fake information. And you've doxed this how? I'm just curious. See you tomorrow, everybody. Major Lee will continue this tomorrow. Have a good night.
Stay healthy, my friend.
You too.
If you need bail money, give me a call.
Always, Dad. Take care.
You too.